Why do you have a hard time enjoying open world gacha games? Of course, this isn't everybody. I'm only talking to people who probably feel this way, who probably think, oh, another open world gacha game. Nah, I'm good. I've been there and I'm tired of it. I can't enjoy them. I want to answer that question for you guys. Some of you might not know why you don't enjoy them. And I do even have solutions, but I'm afraid these solutions may never be implemented due to the very essence of what a gacha game is, how it functions, and what it's designed to do. I have a wonderful video by my brother Genizat that I want to react to, and I think we'll both be able to collectively tackle precisely why you guys might not enjoy gacha games in an open world setting. This video is called Is Open World Gacha Fatigue Real by Genizat. I'm curious to see what his points are going to be as opposed to my own points, to what leads to that particular fatigue. Without further ado, let's get into it.
There are currently 6 gacha games released that are 3D open world, with another 10 on the way. That's a total of 16 3D open world gacha games.
I'll be real, I actually feel exposed. I should probably remove the gacha in my name because I didn't know there were 16 games coming out. Dear God.
When will the madness end? We got Genshin Impact, Wuthering Waves, Tower of Fantasy, Arknight's Endfield, Seven Deadly Sins Origin, Neverness to Everness, Azure Premilia, Rewinding Cadence, Honkai Nexus Anima, Unending Dawn, Silver Palace, Wang Yue, Barca Pure, Project...
Okay, hold on. I knew every single game except Unending Dawn. Wang Yue, is that what he said? I didn't know that one either.
2/3 Dragon Sword Awakening, and I'll add in Ananta as a special exception since people won't stop talking about it in regards to 3D open world gacha games.
Okay, yeah, that is a lot of gacha games. I will say the last one too is something I didn't know.
Wang Yue, Barca Pure, Project 2/3, Dragon Sword Awakening.
Oh, Dragon Sword Awakening, that's right. So this game is no longer a gacha game. They removed it. There's an insane amount of drama surrounding that Korea game, but it's now just a game. I think it's $30 on Steam, and a lot of people are actually receiving it quite well. They're saying it's a mixture of Genshin Impact plus Monster Hunter plus I think Grand Blue Fantasy. I think they even drew some correlations there. I'm not sure. I've been kind of curious. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't curious, but I do kind of want to check the game out because they removed the gacha in it. That said, that's a lot of different gacha games dropping that are in the open world category. And why do they all feel kind of like samey, or you feel like you're not getting anything new out of these gacha games? If you're this target audience, that's the conversation I want to talk about. I'm gonna let them cook a little bit more.
And I'll add in Ananta as a special exception since people won't stop talking about it in regards to 3D open world gacha games. I probably even missed some, and who knows how many others haven't even been announced yet. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Since there's so many 3D open world gacha games releasing, there's some question to ask. Is there open world gacha fatigue? Which will be the first to die? And who is making these games?
100% there is absolutely open world gacha fatigue. I'm not going to speak for everyone, but I know a damn decent amount of individuals who are tired of playing open world gacha games.
Let's address some of these questions in this video, but first, determine what the criteria for an open world 3D gacha is. I'd say
okay. Let me cook
the important aspects are...
I'm going to say selling gacha characters and gacha weapons. Obviously, creating big, beautiful worlds that are empty as hell, albeit, but big, beautiful, vibrant open worlds for you to explore. And then the third option, I would say the third option for meeting the open world gacha game criteria is main story progression. Yeah, a never-ending story.
1 has an open world where a large part of the gameplay is about exploration. 2 has a gacha system related to pulling characters.
Okay, we're two for two.
And 3, you can jump. Why does...
What the fuck? That was a troll, bro.
Jumping matter.
I mean, to be fair, I don't know many open world games where you can't jump.
Because an open world game with exploration doesn't really exist in this genre if you can't maneuver around with ease. Also, not being able to jump feels wrong. Ever
Yeah, bro, exposed Zenless Zone Zero right
sat in an MMO town and just jumped around while in a Discord call? Now this...
I dare say that's why I stopped playing MMOs, because I would get in the Discord call with friends and then we would talk for hours and I realized I did nothing at all except jump. That's a true story. Okay, I do want to take a quick break here, and I want to talk to you guys about why the open world gacha fatigue is in fact an issue for a lot of people. I got some notes here that I think are very important, and they're basically open world gacha game issues at large that exist obviously exclusively inside of gacha games. The first one, and it kind of goes into a bunch of subcategories, is going to be that there's no real exploration. And that's kind of ridiculous. Why would I have an open world game with no real exploration? Well, the gacha system kind of clashes with this issue. Number one, there's no in-game gear to find as you explore. Why? Because stamina systems and instance area farms exist inside of these games, which go into dailies and weeklies. You log in, you spend your stamina. Hopefully you got the good gear for the day. And if you didn't, you log off. And so putting gear for you to find in the actual exploration experience would go against the stamina system. It would go against the gacha structure. The second one is no hidden abilities or characters to unlock via exploration. They are monetizing it via the gacha system instead. A lot of the times in open world games, you might get a character that becomes unlockable and playable and joins your party, so on and so forth, as you go around your merry little way. Well, that would put a big dent and butcher inside of the character gacha that they're trying to sell you and make a money off of, because their game is free to play, right? I'm just giving you the exact why that doesn't exist in the explorative experience. There's no hidden abilities because the characters are being sold with you along with their abilities. Whereas in a lot of these games, you can unlock abilities as you go through the exploration experience, as you're unveiling lore, meeting new people. You're also going in these dungeons and probably unlocking an ability. He can now cast fire. He can now cast thunder. He can now do a freaking swirl wind attack. You know what I mean? A shorter you can. None of that is going to be existing inside of a gacha game because that's a part of them selling you the character, right? And so now you're starting to see, as I list off these things, the issues and the over glaring problems as why it's hard for you to enjoy open world gacha games. It all has to do with gacha and making money. Unfortunately, that's the trade-off for them being free to play. Now, I don't think that's the only way. I just think that's what has worked and what has made the most money. Let's continue on though. No secret bosses to discover. Virtually no point, since all the gear and the weapons are put inside of a gacha system. Why would we put a secret boss in our map for you to fight? There's nothing you're going to get out of it. And even if they put a secret boss inside of the map, it's probably going to be brain dead and not move at all. No dungeons to conquer and explore. This doubles down, right? There's no dungeons to conquer and explore because it's replaced with the stamina system and a small instance area. Once again, when I'm having fun with open world games that are not gacha games, I'm one of the big motivating factors. I just think of Clear Obscure Expedition 33, for example. I would go into these little instance dungeons because I knew I was going to get my ass whipped and I had to beat that boss. So there was a challenging aspect that was motivating, but I might also find some really strong gear or even change up the very nature of the build of the character that I'm utilizing. These are all components that would allow me to want to go inside of these places, to motivate me to explore and clear the whole map, because there could have been some cosmetics too. Speaking of which, there are no cosmetics to unlock as you explore in a lot of these open world gacha games because they're trying to sell you them in a shitty overpriced shop, and the cosmetics are pretty damn mid. Once again, it points towards the shop, it points towards the gacha system. I do think they could put cosmetics around the map for you to explore via NPCs, side quests, and exploration quests, right? I do think they should do that, but it does cut into the gacha structure that makes them, maximize a profit. Now, open world enemy threats. This is a big one. Yeah, this is a huge pause inside of Genizad's reaction, but I wanted to get through these. In fact, we'll probably take a break after this one and get back to the react, because at this point, you're just watching a Gacha Smack video of me. Yeah, open world enemy threats. Brain dead bots that barely move all throughout the open world. If they made them challenging, you know who would be mad? Mobile players, because mobile players would be bitching about how they can't get through the game because the open world enemies are too challenging. That's another thing that goes inside of a gacha game, trying to appease not only a PC market, but a mobile market, because they make a lot of money off mobile players. But there's no sense of danger when every single enemy in the world is a joke. In fact, you start to feel like you've conquered that area entirely. And once you feel that sensation of I've conquered this area, why the fuck would I want to explore it? Does that make sense? There's less reason to explore. And so I want to get back to the react. I got more things listed here, but I wanted to make sure we tackled these things as effectively as we possibly could, because my goal with this video and this react is to make people fundamentally aware of the glaring problems with these open world gacha games. Let's continue on.
Giant boom for open world gachas all began with the release of Genshin Impact, making billions of dollars. And since then, there's been a crazy upsurge of
Oh, I just realized how loud I had this video.
Games with similar systems.
Sorry about that, guys.
Start noticing a lot of strangely similar UI elements in games, or denominations of currency being 160 per pole. The combat relying on 3 to 4 characters, swapping between them and using a basic attack skill and ultimate.
Jesus, bro. This is another one I got down.
The end game? I'll have a multi-character swap combat with, a timer-based endgame with tanky enemies that pose no real danger.
Daring today, aren't we?
Rock, make one of the first 2 areas be a Chinese-inspired anime fantasy world with characters whose names I can't pronounce without looking like a guilo.
So, like, the thing is, one example that comes to mind that I feel like some guy in the comment section would try to make, well, do you play Souls games all the time? Well, Souls games are fundamentally and uniquely different from one another because the world in the exploration, which I just spent a great deal of time explaining to you, is uniquely different. You are, in essence, going around this map. There's no question marks. So you genuinely have to explore. You don't know what kind of weapons are in the game. And the bosses and the enemies, which is the dance partner of a combat experience, are incredibly challenging. And they are very and extremely unique to the point where, yes, the Souls-like combat is pretty much jump attack, roll attack, and so on and so forth. But the bosses, the fights, the enemies are why Souls games are so incredibly compelling, because you remember all of those different favorite fights that you've had in these Souls games that you will only ever get out of that fight in particular. So you can't use that as the same example as, well, all gacha games have the same elemental systems. Why are you complaining when you like all Souls games? All gacha games have the exact same system, bar for bar, one for one. And the enemies are all brain dead. The enemy experiences you barely even remember. I will say Wuthering Waves will be the closest thing to giving you actual like unique experiences with their tactical hologram fights. At least those are a more compelling and unique experience in comparison to like the rest of the things I've experienced in the space. But the problem is, you can't keep doing the exact same combat system with a brain dead gacha game enemy experience and expect people to not burn out. People are going to burn out. They're going to be numb to these experiences. I would say this is one of the problems NTE fucked up on, is giving you the exact same elemental swap experience, and it's debatably worse than the games you already play. To be completely fair, you guys know I like NTE, but its combat experience is incredibly lackluster in mid because it's basically done 100% of the exact same thing that other games are already doing in the space versus creating a unique, fresh experience that these other games aren't doing. Holy shit, I have a lot to say about this topic.
We see these similar systems over and over, and you bet a majority of these new games are going to have these copy pasted again and again. Now, this isn't to say games are just the same because they share a few systems. On the contrary, many of these games are completely different. Azure Premilia, for instance, is a 3D open world game with Pokemon monsters, while Wang Yue is a 3D open world with Pokemon monsters in a city. Or how about Neverness to Everness?
And they all don't have the things I listed.
Where you have a sprawling open world urban environment where you deal with SCP-like anomalies compared.
To be fair, though, the Pokemon capture games do, at the very minimum, offer a new open world experience in comparison to like Wu-Wai Genshin Impact and them, because you are going to be like doing those Power World type of ordeals where you're using them to like farm cities, resources, and build them up and such. But typically in gacha games, it always ends up falling very shallow to playing the real deal, like an actual Power World or an actual Pokemon game.
To Varsapura, where you deal with SCP anomalies in an urban open world.
Yeah.
Let's not mention Ananta either. Okay.
Yeah, it's like there's almost a now copy pasta thing occurring between NTE, Ananta, and Varsapura, where they're starting to do the same elemental system, but naming it these incredibly complex fucking names. Changing up a couple of things, but it's still functionally the same swap system.
Keep in mind, I'm not trying to say any games are copying each other, but rather that so many are being produced that many styles are starting to overlap even past the game systems, and some gacha players legitimately cannot tell the difference between some of these. At a certain point, players might start getting bored of the similar concepts of switch between characters to fight, pick up chess.
I mean, I'm one of them. I am completely tired of this swap system. There's no doubt about it. And I'm tired of it literally because I've played it in 10 different gacha games already.
Do mindless events with a plucky little mascot. Now, one thing I've heard many say is that means you're burned out or there's open world gacha fatigue. But haven't you noticed that when you play a similar game with similar chores, you get bored faster and it isn't really your fault? When Genshin released, players could spend hours doing menial tasks simply because it felt so new and fresh and they loved the style.
So I feel like both could be true. You are experiencing open world gacha fatigue, but it's also a fundamental flaw on the developers of giving you the exact same game inside of a gacha infrastructure, which already waters down so much replay value, right? Like I said, when you take in all those variables I listed earlier, where all of the exploration motivation is just taken out because it exists inside of the gacha system for them to maximize a profit, then you put in gacha systems like dailies and weeklies, which aren't really engaging and compelling. It just feels like a chore or a job to do every single day. All of this stuff overlaps and compounds to the point where you just start to feel like you're not even really playing a game. Like that one video I reacted to where I said quitting all gacha games, the reaction of quitting all gacha games. It's like, oh, you're not playing the game, you're maintaining an account, right? You're not exploring, you're just picking up mints and 5% of a pool currency and in hopes that you have enough to acquire the next character. You're just character collecting at that point, right? And then he brings up that Genshin Impact, people used to just spend hours upon hours collecting mint and just exploring the world in these very same flaws that exist that I just pointed out. That's because Genshin Impact was new. It wasn't a game that copied 87 games that have already been created in the gacha space. It was the first to do what it did. Now, it took a lot of inspiration from Breath of the Wild, but it did grab its own identity and become that one gacha game that was new and fresh to the space. Anime shell shaded at the time was not in mass the way it is now, where now you see an anime shell shaded, you're like, oh, brother, another gacha game. Back then, it was like, holy shit, wait, I've been looking for an anime shell shaded open world game to get into. So it had all the right ingredients for a groundbreaking recipe for a video game. Then, of course, there was the pandemic too.
Picking mint for hours. Even inconveniences or bad quality of life didn't really matter simply because it was just a joy to play. But with every new open world gacha game, players get bored faster, an update rolls around, and rather than being placated for a week, it might only be a couple of days at most. Majority of these updates are new story quest, new area, new character to spend pulls on, and a couple events with the depth of one of those games you see in a Facebook ad.
And that is the entire experience. I want to play that back one more time. That is the gacha game experience. And you have to accept that is what you're going to be playing. And people are okay with it. In fact, I'd argue vast majority of gacha players are okay with it. I don't think they should be, but they are, right? And so you have to understand, if you are not enjoying that experience, you either wait for the space to change or realize that isn't really a compelling game, or you go play a real game and get that experience out of a real game and then continue playing gacha games for what they are, which is a huge argument that a lot of people in the space make. But let's play that back one more time.
Couple of days at most. Majority of these updates are new story quest, new area, new area,
character
to spend pulls on, and
new characters spin pulls on,
couple events with the depth of one of those games you see in a Facebook ad.
That is the gacha game experience, right? And then they take in-game from Genshin Impact, which is Spiral Abyss, a shitty slop roguelike mode, and then they drop an in-game mode again down the line that's just a sponge fest with brain-dead mobs. They all do the exact same thing. And this is why I always say that the most important aspect of a gacha game is its story, because of all the aforementioned things. You're not going to get these experiences outside of a gacha game, but what you can get is a compelling story, which, by the way, makes the exploration feel fresh with each patch update. But as long as you understand what you're going to get out of that gacha game, you can have fun with it. If you try to expect things that aren't going to happen due to how a gacha game functions, that's where I think a lot of the disdain and vitriol comes from a lot of consumers that get into these gacha games.
Is it the player's fault that they grow tired of this? You farmed the same gear, dealt the same RNG, farmed the same materials, grabbed the same chests, done the same daily, spent the same stamina, lost the same 50/50s, finished the same endgame across maybe 2 to 3 of these games. Rather than the player being burned out or open world games being fatigued, it's the game's lacking ingenuity and copying the exact same framework. The issue
I completely agree, but it is also the player's fault because the player, I guess he's still kind of doing it. He's doing it in a more tactful way, but the consumer is in the same vein enabling these things. I guess that's why we're doing these videos, though, right? This react here, this video that Genizat made, and then my reaction is to try and spread awareness to why you should be discontent with these things, to advocate for a better consumer experience with these gacha games as opposed to the one you're consuming right now. Not that the one right now is just a bad experience, but that it could be so much better.
Issue isn't exactly that open worlds are overdone, it's that games all keep having the same gameplay loop. A small amount of insight into this development can paint a picture. Without stating which game and who gave this information, one of the games listed above that hasn't released is currently in a constant feud between developers and management. The developers want to incorporate unique ideas such as different combat styles and endgame mechanics and make the game stand out more amongst the competition, but every time they attempt to bring new
Fucking PNG is killing me.
ideas to the table, the management responds with, "That isn't what Genshin does." And no, this isn't a joke or an exaggeration.
Yeah, actually, it's funny that he's bringing it up in the video. He told me about this off camera. Obviously, I'm not going to disclose who and what, but yeah, no, this is actually, oh man, I forgot about this. This is a whole nother topic, but this is the sad reality of the behind the scenes ordeal. A lot of these corporate morons are literally just saying, do what Genshin does. That made the most money. And they're just completely ignoring all of the ideas, the innovation, the creativity that some of these developers have and would like to implement in their games because they would rather try and maximize a profit because Genshin did it. I know.
The very thing that inspired the game in the first place is chaining it to the ground. Ideas are quashed due to there not already being a precedent in the current market. It definitely puts some things into perspective because who knows how many potential games will refuse to innovate. There's only so many people in the pool of gacha players, and it's hard to increase this pool, so every game is competing for a similar audience.
And I said this in a video. There is so many people. It's like it's becoming a cannibalization with the rapid release of all these different gacha games to the point where, and if you're wondering, like, why are you saying there's not that many people? Well, it's because the gacha space has such a terrible fucking bad rap. Rightfully so, because of just how much garbage exists inside of the space purely just to make more money, and they already make too much money. I say that all the time. All you have to do is just look at how much money every other game makes that's not a gacha game, and then look at how much they're making per month, and they hide their fucking money that they make because a lot of them are based in China, and so they don't have to report to the United States government. But like a lot of it is PC and console revenue that is never disclosed to the public.
There must be a breaking point where a high production open world 3D anime game releases and it just simply flops because there's a limited pool of players. Which will be the first to end of service? Is it one already released or one that isn't even announced yet? Well, the answer is simple. It's already dead. Yeah, the first open world 3D gacha died, and probably barely anyone even knows. It's a game called Memento White Shadow.
Oh, yeah, this game did die. To be fair, like a lot of gacha games die.
Genshin-style open world mixed with a Honkai Star Rail-style combat system, but with PvP. The game was seriously underbaked and didn't even last a year before closing, which is a shame because it actually had some promise. But the craziest part is that the game is actually attempting to relaunch, but who knows when that's happening. Now, something that I want to note is that out of all 16 of these games, all except 2 of these are from China. Other 2 being from Korea and 0 from Japan. In an article,
and that's my point exactly, right? The Chinese market for gacha games is booming to the point where it's killing Japanese market. Rightfully so. Japanese market had the most atrocious gacha systems known to mankind. But the other problem with that is what I told y'all. There's a lot of these gacha companies are making so much money and you don't know it because they're based in China. You don't know how much money they're actually making.
Interviewing Shuhei Yoshida from PlayStation, he said, "One reason why games in China are so strong is because they are made in an environment which allows for hiring a large number of personnel who can work long hours."
Yep. I talked about this.
Acting like Japan didn't invent a word for death related to overwork.
No, nobody outworks the Japanese, especially the anime industry. But the thing is, there's so much more manpower in China, and they're getting worked to the bone as well.
Japan invented the playbook for overworking employees. Have you ever met a Studio Mappa employee? Neither of their families.
Bro, the funniest thing about that shit is like, I remember reading an article where they said a guy or a lot of the workers in the animation studio bring a bed to work so that they can sleep on it next to their office because they won't go home. And the sleep won't be like more than a nap. They'll take a nap on a bed right next to their office chair, office cubicle, and then wake up and get back to work. They won't see their family for days and sometimes weeks. Yeah, bro. You talking about locked in?
But the point remains that China is
fucking away picture, bro. Oh, it's so good.
far outpacing other regions when it comes to these games. A friend of mine who works closely with Korean gacha companies has told me that many companies have realized they just can't even attempt to enter this market, and it's better to just work on non-gacha games. Supposedly, some Korean companies were even scared of Neverness to Everness's release, as its scale felt so enormous compared to what they could produce. There are currently 2 Korean gacha games, Seven Deadly Sins Origin and Dragon Sword Awakening. Seven Deadly Sins hasn't really made too many waves overall and had
Man, that shit was booty. It was mid. I'm not gonna say it was booty. It was so mid though.
a fairly modest launch compared to most currently out, mostly carried by its IP, Seven
Yeah.
Deadly Sins.
No, carried by just Escanor. That's probably why he put the picture on the screen. That's correct. It's carried by Escanor.
As for Dragon Sword Awakening, it's supposed to be a spiritual successor to Dragon Nest, however they worked with a publisher named Webzen. Webzen has a bad reputation, but did something that no one expected. They completely screwed over the developers of the game by withholding $2.2 million they owed to them, to eventually lead to a hostile takeover. In retaliation, the developers decided to give infinite free currency to players because they couldn't make money anyways, and they also reached out to Korean YouTubers to cover the subject and put Webzen on blast.
And now, speed up to today, and Dragon Sword Awakening has fully launched separate from those fucking scumbags, Webzen. Get fucked. And the game is a standalone with the publisher. And I'm sorry, not the publisher, the developer, and it's doing quite well. It's already made, I think it's close to making like $10 million, somewhere around there. I think it was like 4.4 million in like the first couple of days, but it's up climbing. It'll definitely reach $10 million. Now the question is, how much did it cost them to make the game? Oof, they're trying to recoup as much as they can, but I think it's worth putting it on, putting them on awareness so that they can recoup as much money back, especially since they got rid of the gacha. It's a $30 purchase for a 2026 open world video game. That's amazing. Yeah, I think more people should play it. More people should support it. I'm thinking about buying it myself and giving it a first impressions non-sponsored review.
Well, now the game is releasing globally without gacha. Yeah, the game's actually a normally priced $30 game now when it releases. Since they now have to self-publish and all the drama occurred, it's become a normal game. So now there's only really a single 3D open world gacha game from outside of China. It is a bit comical that the country to literally invent gacha has fallen behind China in terms of quality and scale of the medium. Hell, China is even starting to ramp up their own anime industry, and who knows where that'll be in a few years.
Bro, to be Hero X fucking godly.
Now let's finally just talk about what some of these games are that are releasing and what I think of them. Azure Premilia is basically Pal World gacha game made by Azure Lane devs. From my own experience, gameplay's fun and fluid with cool combat and building a town. Easy must play.
It's a must play, but gonna offer the same exact issues where you're not gonna be able to have a real open world compelling experience. And that's the problem with every single open world gacha game. Until they actually start giving you a real compelling open world experience based off of all these things that I have pointed out myself, right? Not being afraid to add in-game gear as you explore. No hidden abilities. I mean, giving hidden abilities and stuff via exploration, secret bosses, dungeons to conquer and explore, cosmetics to unlock. Open world is actually a threat. The enemies inside of the world are a real threat. You will get clapped. Alternate story pathing. Oh man, that would be so nice. But the problem with alternate story pathing inside of gacha games is they're never ending. They're always going to be updating MSQ. And so to ask for alternate story pathing in a never ending story is unreasonable. It really is fucking insane to demand that on a never ending story. But alternate pathing would give people a reason to start over and play again. No RNG rare spawns like rainbow enemies, because once again, that's a gacha system clash. They're not going to give you rare loot. These developers and publishers are ensuring that every resource you get is meticulously budgeted to ensure that you land into a situation where you go, ooh, I am missing just enough to get that character. I'm gonna spend some money. Or, ooh, I can get the character, but I won't be able to get the weapon. They literally calculate every resource you get in the game. And so that's why there's no RNG of like rare loot spawns and stuff like that. So yeah, but like a lot of these problems if they fix at least just like 2 or 3 of them, the open world experience becomes a lot more enjoyable.
Rewinding Cadence is a fantasy game with a visual novel timeline system and routes you can take, NPCs that can use AI to communicate and respond, and every character has a stand they fight with.
Now, see, that is the next step that a lot of these virtue signalers are not ready to accept. The key alternate story pathing, boring. So a lot of these gacha games, boring as worthless NPCs you never talk to because there's no real reason to talk to them. That can be fixed with AI. AI that is always going to give you different answers that actually responds like. It goes in tandem with that video I made about Hoyoverse trying to create a game with a self-evolving AI civilization. Self-evolving AI civilization, NPCs that actually think for themselves and answer things differently, that would create an insane amount of replay value. And I do see that happening because that's the only way to solve these lifeless, beautiful, empty worlds. And to make them more compelling, to make people want to talk to NPCs and have a reason to talk to those NPCs, it would be a lot more interesting. And he's saying that this Rewinding Cadence game, I didn't even know that. That's kind of crazy.
Lots of promise, hopefully turns out well.
Yeah, we'll see. That's also a game that's like similar to Wu-Wall's Combat.
Okay, next is Anima. Honestly, I was super underwhelmed. The game's first alpha felt like the game had no direction and needs serious overhaul. It totally has time to change, but the initial impression felt lacking with its gameplay not seeming very interesting.
That shit looks mid as fuck, I'm gonna be honest. I wouldn't even mind giving it a try, but it looks incredibly mid. And on top of that, the team behind the game was trying to be cheap on sponsors for the fucking beta. They're trying to get me to play their beta for free. I was like, bro, I'm not playing this budget ass Pokemon game for free. Ain't no shot, little bro. Hoyoverse, on top of that, the company that's willing to spend $15 billion on self-evolving AI, and if it fails, who cares? Nah, little bro, I'm good.
Unending Dawn. Not really sure where this game's been, but it's basically an anime Souls-like, which could have some promise, but it's possible they decide not to go the gacha route in the end and make it a full-fledged game.
Which would truly be unfortunate, because that would be a game that actually isn't doing the 3-man swap system, actually giving you a unique combat experience. But then they go, oh, fuck it, let's just not do gacha. It's like, bro. I mean, to be fair, that's cool too, though, right? Like, obviously, if it's not going to be a gacha game, be a standalone game, that's even better. But I've been in this space long enough to where I envision a world where gacha games' reputations improve because they're actually making good gacha games that are offering a gaming experience that isn't just we're trying to make as much money as possible, which you pull it on characters.
Seems like it would take actual skill,
Cosmetics
and that cuts out 99% of potential gacha players. Lots of enemies taken from Elden Ring, but most footage is old and a lot can change. Silver Palace. Game has a ton of potential, and its narrative is immediately interesting in a steampunk magic England as a detective. Needs a lot of polish, but its early gameplay felt good.
This was before the beta, by the way. It's already improved a lot. But what I will say is Silver Palace is only going to be good for its story, as I've experienced. I'm being completely honest. The story is going to be an amazing experience, I think, for a lot of people, and they'll stick with the game purely for that. But outside of the story, it seems to be doing all the things that everybody else is doing that has already been done before. The combat system, the open world exploration, all of it looks fucking mid. But if you like the theme, or not mid, it looks like the same repetitive, tedious things you've experienced in pre-existing gacha games. But if you like that theme, I think you'll end up enjoying it.
Wang Yue. Recent trailer made it look incredible, but it's hard to create a city that feels meaningful and not large areas with no purpose. Had a lot of creativity from Breath of the Wild building and combining the world's Pokemon. Hopefully it turns out well. Arsa Pura. Hoyoverse had this come out of nowhere, and the game looks incredible overall with a unique graphic style. Only issue is the combat is the exact same as like 5 different open world gachas, so hopefully it'll innovate on that. That's also an issue that Silver Palace has. Project 2/3 is probably a tentative name, but the game seemed interesting in a city of clouds and being able to manipulate gravity to navigate around. Felt themed similar to Bioshock Infinite. Guess what? You probably swap between characters to fight. Dragon Sword Awakening. Technically it's changing from being a gacha, but launched in Korea initially as one. Actually has some unique combo-based combat and feels
This is outdated. It did change, but I mean, like, he made this video before it
it's
released.
nice to play with no stamina system, and multiplayer dungeons is awesome. Ananta. I
Already out, no
know
gacha.
it isn't a gacha, but everyone treats it as being similar. I tried it at Tokyo Game Show, and while being impressive, I was unsure the direction the game wanted other than anime GTA, but it was really high quality. But that about wraps up my thoughts on these upcoming 3D open world games, and also on the topic of open world gacha fatigue. Hope you enjoyed
Yeah, that was a great video by my brother Genizat. I'll be sure to link it down below. To wrap up my own personal thoughts, like I said, I think what needs to happen with these open world gacha games is they need to stop thinking, oh, that'll make us make less money on the gacha system. We can't put that in the game. And start making if you're going to do an open world, make the world worth exploring. Right now, the only real reason to explore an open world gacha games is music and ambiance, vibes, traversing the map, which they get creative with all their gacha characters and vehicles and so on and so forth. But like traversing the map, if that's the only real reason to explore with music and ambiance, dear God, bro, you might as well just make like a racing game or something. I don't know, but like lore enjoyers, which I think that's completely fine and respectable. If you're a lore enjoyer, then you got a reason to explore, because they do have a lot of lore and like different little weapons and items across the map and such. But most people don't have the knack to explore for lore. They usually just watch a lore video on YouTube. Other than that, it's copy and pasta with the current Genshin Impact swap system, elemental system, the break system, and all that. Same thing put in all these other games with brain dead mobs. Same exact in game, like I said, Spiral Abyss, roguelike slop, and new Sponge Fest mode that gets added like a year later down the line. A lot of these problems might always exist in gacha games. They do. They might always exist in gacha games. And if they do, then me personally, I think you should only play them for the story. And if you don't enjoy the story, you probably should just uninstall. Other than that, though, I think we pretty much tackled it as well as we could. Comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. Peace, love, and happiness. And I'll catch you guys on the flip side.